You're listening to a podcast from 702. 702.
World of Work.
It's our World of Work feature. And today we are discussing how to deal with the fear of expressing your ideas in the workplace. Are you one of those people that are shy, right? That are afraid to express their opinions and ideas in meetings? Some are even afraid of addressing a group of people and doing presentations in the workplace because low self-esteem. Sometimes it's just the fear of judgment and rejection that's been considered. Are you one of those people? How do you deal with that? Because the problem is the lack of confidence can have an impact on your career. So sometimes you've got to find a method of self-expression which works for you. So if you suffer from being overly self-conscious, how is this affecting your job? Do you hold back from sharing your ideas in meetings, your opinions? I'd like to hear from you. Give me a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Telana Simpson is a courage coach who's going to guide us through this discussion, and we'll be taking calls and WhatsApps as we go along. Telana, thank you so much for making time. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
So, when you are afraid to speak out, whether it's in meetings or you've got these anxieties when you have to give presentations, is it low self-esteem, or are you just shy? Because sometimes I struggle to differentiate between the two.
Yeah, so there are people that are naturally more quiet, in their style of communicating, and we tend to label those people as shy. But there is another aspect to it, which is the way we've constructed our sense of self-esteem. So one of the areas I do a lot of work in is helping people express themselves better, and specifically overcoming this self-consciousness. And I found that one of the underlying causes is what I've actually called other esteem. So what's interesting about the self-esteem part of this is we have a way of constructing our sense of worth as a human being. And we've been taught, and, the way society is geared up is to make it conditional on what we do and on other people's opinion of us, on being accepted. So if we have that, we then actually have a conditional esteem, and that's when you have low and high self-esteem, and your esteem will always go up and down based on if you're performing or if other people are accepting. And that's all in your head, right? That's your interpretation of them judging you positively and accepting you. So basically you're giving your sense of worth as a human being to other people, letting them decide. The other way to construct your self-esteem, and this is what I wish more people would understand it, is to make it unconditional. Because literally it's how we make sense of ourselves as a human being. And we have unconditional worth. There's no conditions to be a human. Right? You're a human being, Clement. Yeah? You're not an alien or some other, you're a human. And if you think of a newborn baby, does that little human being have value? What would you say? Yes, so they do, right? But that little child cannot speak yet, cannot dress itself, cannot drive a car, doesn't have degrees, doesn't have a job. So that is unconditional self-esteem, our worth as a human being. So if we can come from that place, it's much easier now to express ourselves in work because we're there to add our value to the workplace. We have an opinion, we have an idea. It's to add it to the workplace, and it doesn't define you. It's not who you are. It's your value from your upbringing, from your experiences, from your studies that you have to contribute to whatever that meeting is about, whatever that project you're working on. So I don't know, speaking a lot about it, but it's so foundational. If you can de-link your esteem from your doing, we call it your being from your doing, because confidence is all about doing. You have to speak up, you have to practice public speaking in order to develop confidence in that expression. But if you link your worth to that doing and you fail at the doing, then you've interpreted as you've failed as a human being.
Yeah.
And that's the fear. Yeah.
What is the impact of us not speaking up?
Well, I think it's really sad when people don't, is because we need more diverse opinions. We need more diverse ideas. And if you're being called to a meeting, for example, or asked to do a presentation, it's because the people around you believe you have value to add. You have something to contribute. And when people are quiet and they hold themselves back, everyone else is missing out on their unique contribution. And also in terms of your career, in terms of progressing, you will be branded, we talk about personal branding, as the quiet one, as the shy one, as we were talking about. And then people don't know the value you have to add because you're not demonstrating it. You're not, contributing. So it holds you back. You're not seen. You're not heard as much when you do speak. You often get looked over for exciting projects or for the next promotion. So contributing, just speaking up, is just really just allowing yourself to be seen and to contribute to the project, to the program, whatever it is that's where you're in. And that helps you build the relationships. It helps you make connections with people. It helps them get to know you and know where they can use your set of skills and your knowledge and your expertise. And therefore, they're going to invite you to the next promotion or the next exciting project.
I indicated earlier that, sometimes the problem with this lack of confidence or the fear of speaking is that it can have an impact on your career. As you say, Telana, sometimes when you are bold, you're speaking out, that can elevate you. So how do you advise people who are feeling that way when they are in the workplace and they want to find ways to be more expressive, not to be shy, to pump up their self-confidence so they can get there and kill that presentation? Because most of them actually are great at what they do, right? The presentation, they've organized it well, it's great, but they just don't have the confidence to present it. So what ways or methods of self-expression can they work on so that this whole thing works in the workplace?
So the key part of confidence is it only comes from practice. So I know they don't want to hear this, but it's to speak up. It's to go and do as many presentations. So if you battle in that, practice it at home. Rehearse it. Make sure you have notes. Do the preparation, because that gives you a level of confidence. Then on the day, the other thing that was big in the self-consciousness part is something called the spotlight effect. It's where we believe it's a collection of, they're called cognitive biases. So it's the way our brain processes information that we use in the negative, so it becomes like a bias. It holds us back. And these 5 biases together create what's known as the spotlight effect, where we feel that everyone's looking at us and they all know how nervous we are. They can see, they're judging it. That we feel like the spotlight is on us. But I can tell you there is no spotlight on you, because everybody in that room often feels that way. And so the one tip I always give people is to take that spotlight off you. So stop focusing on your nerves, on your experience, and put it onto the content of what you're there to contribute. Put the spotlight, focus on the message you want to get across. And whatever anyone says, the questions they ask is just feedback. It's just information. And the other part is to do not link your esteem to your confidence, to your doing. Do not put your esteem on the table. The only thing on the table is your idea, your presentation, the contribution you're there to make. So you've got to learn to understand that you are valuable whether you do the presentation or not. And then focus on the content of the presentation, not on how you're feeling and what that people are looking at you. Of course, they're going to look at you because you're the one speaking. But the spotlight effect leads people to interpret them, that when people are looking at them, the audience, that, oh my gosh, they must know what's going on inside of me. And because they know I'm nervous, they're going to think I'm terrible. Whereas I promise you, they don't know. There's so many times I've seen speakers, afterwards they told me they're nervous, but I didn't notice it because I'm listening to the content of what they have to say.
Yes. Oh, if only we knew that. If only we knew this.
Yes.
Okay, so, Telana, this is helping me too, because I'm one person who struggles with, expressing themselves publicly. I do a lot of MC gigs, and I can tell you, as soon as there's an MC gig that's been confirmed, from that day on, I've got anxieties until the day of the event. And so I'm learning a lot. So I'm also taking down notes as you speak. I want us to help as many listeners as we can. There are many of them sending us messages. Some are calling us as well. So I'll take some calls as well. Let me start with the messages that are coming through. Tembi says, "Hi, Clement and Telana. My biggest issue is the expectation for everyone to be an extrovert or outgoing, and colleagues not truly, and outgoing colleagues not truly accepting of different personality types, which further suppress people from feeling comfortable to express themselves. Let people be themselves and don't make people feel weird for being quiet than others." What is the problem about this, Telana? Because what I'm picking up is, this Tembi is saying, well, just accept that there are people that are not going to be expressing themselves in those meetings, that are not going to be so good and so confident when they're making those presentations, as opposed to help them get better at it. Just accept that they are just introverts.
Yes, so there is that aspect of, other people in the room and leaders and managers need to also try and encourage those that are naturally more quiet or reserved to give them a space to speak. Because there's people who are comfortable talking often just take over. They talk and talk. And I was labeled once as being really shy, and I found it the most frustrating thing because I wasn't actually shy, I was listening. When people are listening, and they're truly listening, to really understand what's going on, you can't be thinking, or talking. Listening is a skill on its own. So we need to be more accommodating of people who don't speak as much as, say, what's termed as the extroverts, who are more loud and more expressive. It doesn't mean those people don't have a contribution. But I would still encourage those people to not buy into that label of, I'm introverted, therefore I can't speak. Because for me, that's a label that limits us. I always talk about us as the quiet ones. We can actually make the most noise in our quiet way, or the biggest impact in our quiet way. You don't have to, when you speak up, be booming and, have these wonderful stories and all that. I can tell you also, maybe from the flip side, I speak to a lot of CEOs and managers and MDs and that, when they're trying to help develop their staff, and they say they're so frustrated when those quiet people don't contribute, because they hired them for their contribution. So they want us to speak up, the ones that are labeled as shy. So don't buy into the shyness and then limit yourself. Oh, I'm shy, so I'm not going to speak. I really want to encourage you to learn. I think you said it. Learn your style of expressing. You can still add huge value in a quiet way, if that makes sense. In your style of, but contribute, speak up, because you will find it's just that inertia. Once you start to speak up more and more often, you develop confidence in that, and it becomes easier and easier each time. But you've got to start somewhere. Yeah,
and practice and practice and practice. I've got I saw a tweet from, here we go. Wonga Nchinga on Twitter says, excellent conversation there, Clement. I would like to contribute that voice warming techniques are also important. I'm not sure if this was mentioned. That's Wonga there on Twitter. Another message here says, Clement, I think being expected to always use the English language is what is holding people back with public speaking and presentations. That's KG in Tshwane. Another person says, hi Clement, Kanye here, and it's like you guys are talking to me. I work really hard and I have so much knowledge, but my speech is horrible when I'm expressing myself in a crowd, but in one or in a one-on-one, I'm brilliant. I easily get intimidated with bigger crowds. How do you advise Kanye there, Telana? Because she's the way she's even describing it for me is like, because she says my speech is horrible when I'm expressing myself in a crowd. And if she has that view, of course, that's how she's going to feel every time she makes a public address, because she has already made up her mind that her speech is horrible. But she says she's good on one-on-ones. How do you advise her?
So the one thing tip would be to try and imagine, if you can, you're having one-on-ones with just 10 people in the room. So just look at one person and talk to them, and then look at the other person. So to take away the meaning that 10 people or however many in the room is so awful. I mean, you're just talking to a group of people. And we put too much meaning on this group effect. And we forget that it's actually just 10 individuals sitting around the table that we can, talk with. And there was something else I wanted to say to Kanye is if you listen to people's speech, even me there, I'm trying to find my words, so we do tend to and ah a little bit, and that's okay. That's most natural speech. We tend to have this expectation or perception that it has to come out in perfect English, perfectly, fluently, but that's not how people, if they just listen to you and you're interviewing your guests, and that as people naturally talk, we do stumble and think of our words because we're trying to access our thoughts. Make it natural. Don't make it wrong. And also, it's part of that spotlight effect. She needs to not worry about the way she speaks, but more on what she's adding. And it will naturally flow. Her speech will be better because she's not worried about the speech. Her focus is on the wrong thing. It's that spotlight effect. Instead of focusing on the speech, she must focus on the content of what she wants to share. Yeah. Because that's what she does when she's one-on-one. So it's not like she's not able to speak her ideas.
Is this a responsibility you must take up on yourself, Telana, or is this something that employers need to start investing in so that they get the best out of their employees? In other words, should I as Clement go and start doing the work of making sure that I can just express myself well even in meetings, or should companies start providing those coaching lessons for employees who may consider themselves as shy or maybe with a low self-esteem, and you help them out so that you can get the best of them? Because as you said, they're there to contribute. So them sitting there and being shy and scared to raise their ideas doesn't benefit you as the company as well.
Yes. So I'd say it's both. I mean, for our own personal development, so about expressing yourself, you're going to use that in any job, any aspect. It even happens, at home, with family, with intimate friends, it can, in crowds at a braai. The shy people usually battle there as well. So for your own personal development, don't wait for someone else to invest in you. Invest in yourself. Because this shift that I'm talking about, once you've got it, and it's there for life. If you can get this right, you will have it for life. As well as companies need to understand, if managers could understand that it's not that this person is stuck being shy forever. A bit of investment in them, a bit of coaching, as you're saying, or training can make the big difference in helping them become more productive and add their value more at work. So I don't know if that answers. I personally always like to take control of my own development.
Yeah.
But if companies want to get more out of their staff and they have shy, quiet people, as they call them, there is something that can be done to help those people speak up more.
Okay. Makosonke, you're calling us from Jabulani in Soweto. What do you want to say?
Yes, I just want to say, Clement, that when I was in the corporate sector, one of the things that I did as a manager of a branch, I started my career in retail space, and you must understand that retail employees are usually negative, and also it emanates from the fact that they get paid less money and stuff like that, so they are not motivated. So one of the strategies that I've used is mental coaching them to be able to perform. So I just believe that corporate sectors or whenever you deal with people, there has to be an investment of investing in leaders or managers or whoever that is playing a role of taking after the people to be able to mentally coach those people. Because I can tell you right now that the most contribution is your mental ability in whatever that you want to achieve. If mentally you are stable, then you are able to perform greatly. Because even the team that I was leading, I found them performing bad, but the sooner I started mentally coaching them, then they did perform very well. All
right, Makosanke, thank you. Employers must also find a strategy to help train these employees. Stanley in Centurion, what do you want to say?
Hi, Clement. Yes.
Oh, Stanley Beckett. Hey. Yes, please.
Yes, hi, Clement. A piece of advice that I was given, I speak to audiences all the time. And in the beginning, I was exactly the same. I was very nervous. I forgot my words because of my nervousness. And just a small piece of advice I was given, I really hope can help some people out there. And the advice was just simply, when you go into an audience speaking to people, speak to the light. So in other words, if you go into an audience, you'll see there's always those people that I call the dark. They look bored. They're looking at their watches all the time. They're looking around, and if you focus on them, it completely drains your energy. But there's always the light in the room as well. There's always that one person that's nodding their head, taking notes, laughing at every joke you make. I was taught that the key is find that one or two people in the room that are the light, look at everybody else, but speak to the light. Keep focusing on them, and you will see that it dramatically increases your energy and your confidence, and when that increases, then everything else seems to flow well as well. So I'm hoping that can help others as well. I always tell myself, as I'm about to walk into a stage or as I'm about to talk to people, speak to the light, speak to the light, speak to the light.
Thank you for that, Stanley. I'm definitely going to be using this trick tomorrow night. I appreciate your call, Stanley in Centurion. Telana, any other resources you have that could help our listeners improve on this?
Yes, thank you. I actually am offering a free training next week in the evenings on Zoom and Facebook.
Wonderful.
And it's developed in a form of a challenge. It's a 5-day free challenge where each day you get a task to do. And I've had people get amazing results through this. So they can get in touch with me on Twitter, it's Telana, or go to innercoaching.co.za to register, so they can get, all the details. And I also have a book around the spotlight effect, because that effect is so strong. If they go to Amazon and Google Consciously Shine, they can find the book around it that has very practical tips that counter those biases and turns the spotlight off. Yes, I would, this is my biggest encouragement to people is to just try. It just takes like 30 seconds of courage just to start, just to put your hand up and speak. And I promise you it gets easier as you're speaking and as you're going. So,
yeah. Telana, thank you. Please get yourself on those resources. Attend this free session as well next week that Telana Simpson, who's a courage coach, will be hosting. Let me wrap up with some of your messages and then we'll go to Eyewitness News headlines. One message says, Clement, thanks for the interesting topic. I was never aware that I can be an MC until people persuaded me, and ever since then I've been doing MCs at weddings, funerals, corporate gigs, theater, big music concerts. That's live from Siluma View in Katlehong. Another person says, about building confidence as a speaker, perhaps do a run through in front of the mirror or video record yourself to see what others will see. Just a thought. I'm a shy person as well, and I hate public speaking. The last one, hi Clement, I think that reserved people do share ideas, but corporate leaders tend to listen to the loud ones in the room. But we will still contribute even though we are shaking in our boots. Thank you for your contribution.